So our journey really started to ramp up in 2021 when we had the NG 911 readiness assessment completed. This took advantage of our existing relationships that we built through our York Info partnership. So that is a partnership with our local municipalities, school boards, conservation authorities, etc. After engaging with over 50 stakeholders, it was confirmed what we thought to be true, that we had the data that we needed, at least the mandatory elements and the necessary tools, Esri, FME, et cetera, to get the job done, but it also highlighted where we were most weak. So did we have a clear process? Were all of our stakeholders fully engaged? Did we have the proper troubleshooting protocols in place? The document really became a key communication tool for us that we could share with any of our stakeholders. And it also became a valuable reference material as staff changed different departments and different organizations. So we soon realized just how complex our stakeholder network was. Here at York Region, we're a two-tiered government system. So in our situation, regional municipalities are tasked with the provision of services such as emergency response, while local municipalities are the authoritative source of road and address information, key components required to support these services. We have 9 local municipalities, which are serviced by 1 police, 1 EMS, and 3 fire services groups. On top of that, we're a landlocked region, and we have 4 surrounding regional municipalities that we must coordinate with as well. And then on top of that, don't forget all of those stakeholders that are within each of those organizations. They could be in planning, building, legal, clerks, GIS, and data departments. So for us, the project since the 2021 kickoff has really focused on 3 key components up to now: formalizing agreements, expanding and transferring knowledge, and establishing processes. But with that said, our team, similar to Brendan's, has been focused more on the data side, while others within the organization have been, and outside of organization, have been focused on the call taking, the dispatch, network, security, phone hardware, et cetera. But throughout it all, there's been a strong emphasis on building and maintaining relationships. So the first one is the formalizing agreements. And if you're in Ontario, I can say, oh my, the infamous Bell agreement. So there's a lot of confusion around this. Who has been getting the agreement? Who's supposed to sign the agreement? Does it cover data and technology? How is this all going to work? And what does it really mean? So as we started going through them, it became really clear that we were going to need memorandums of understanding to formalize all of these different relationships and responsibilities that had been functioning, similar to Brendan, at a handshake level. But now we really required that clear accountability. I think currently we're up to close to 20 agreements that are being developed related to 911 across all of the different functions. So hardware, software, data sharing, functionalities. So if you have not engaged your legal group yet, you should become their friends. They need to be involved, and they'll be involved more than I know we had predicted for starting the project. And the discussions around the agreements, I know it sounds quite negative, but it's actually been a positive because it starts to ensure that there's a recognition of NG 911 as a crucial initiative for all parties involved. And it's also establishing that commitment at the highest level, which then makes it easier to adjust the resourcing needs and timing at those functioning levels. And throughout it all, the focus, we've really emphasized what is best for our shared resident. So regardless of who used to do it or who should do it, what is the best way to ensure that our residents get the service that they need and require. So as we said, there's still a lot of confusion around the requirements, timing, and processes of 911. Formally, my team and others that were involved, our stakeholders, we've been attending working groups, conferences whenever possible, simply to understand where are we in respect to others and what can we learn from others. Really, you just can't learn a laugh. Every time you open a new door, you learn something new and you figure out opportunities to share. So once we do learn, we're also focused on sharing it as quickly and widely as possible. We've done several presentations whenever we're asked to any of our local municipalities within our organization. We want to talk to those stakeholders. We want to understand their processes and priorities. That's part of our what we call our continuous discovery initiative, and help identify where there may be alignments and benefits. And as I said before, it's not just your data peeps. We've been giving presentations to our legal and risk team, And we've been working alongside our police who've been implementing their new call taking system. And that really brought to light a lot of things that maybe we hadn't seen from the GIS perspective. You know, what is required? What are those things that are happening ahead of time prior to getting to data being the center of the radar? So this dialogue is building and strengthening relationships, and it's really helping us understand how we can help others balance those priorities. So the third part is establishing processes, and I pretty much going to echo a lot of things that Brandon has said. There's a lot of things to happen. We are relying on documents like the NENA standard to figure out what those best practices are. We have been fortunate in that with our local municipalities, we have been sharing data through our York Info partnership. We have a data co-op that's built off AGOL. So we already had some of those things in place, but we really hadn't got to the point of figuring out, well, what are those other different processes that will need to be defined and established over the next year or so, or next few years, and where should we start? So we decided we wanted to start on things that are basically within a staff level control and isn't necessarily dependent on any of those agreements being signed. So addressing and address points are our current focus. Key component, but they didn't involve shared geometries. So that was one of the bonuses. A point versus working on polygons or shared road lines was going to be a lot more complex. It was also an area poised for the greatest change. Those notifications going from tabular to spatial, but it also weaved into business processes that we could see a benefit from alignment. So if you think about address notifications, some people were already doing them in CAD. So maybe it was just a change of from CAD to GIS to ensure that we're ready to get there. As well, if you think about that address notification, you can also think about the dreaded 72-hour everyone's concerned about. And what we realized, if we were starting to put things in at a proposed stage, we were actually well ahead of that 72 hours. We also discovered some duplication in efforts between and within organizations. And from an editing perspective, we're actually investigating a slightly different approach to what I've heard others consider. We're looking into editing collaboratively with our local municipal partners to minimize the integration efforts and quality checks that would be required to weave those multiple sources together. So the regional municipality is sort of taking on that mini aggregator role, and we're investigating the address manager tool as a possibility for that collaborative editing. As well, from the business benefit perspective, we're looking at those opportunities to do a shared delivery and notification to other interested parties, like the utilities, Canada Post, MPAC, school boards. If people's effort is put into creating the address point rather than sending out the notifications, could we balance off that additional time one way and save some time somewhere else? From a timing perspective, we're looking at aligning any with technology upgrades. So many of us are moving to Pro, and it seems like a good time to, if you're going to change tools or change data models, now would be the time. And similar to Brandon, we're still wondering what these delivery method requirements will be up into the NG911 provider. So this one, so when we started talking about processes, one of the things that we realized is we really needed to go a second round. So after the readiness assessment, we need to go back to a number of the people that had been talked about and dive deeper into specific things, make sure we really understood how are they capturing any of the information right now. And other things came to light. So I use this as an example because it's not necessarily model related or delivery related, but we kept stumbling across this same pain point that each one of our municipalities was having. It was road naming and address numbering. It was amazing to see the variety of challenges that currently exist and how many continue to be introduced. In some cases, it's a lack of knowledge on who's approving them. They don't necessarily understand what the implications may be. In other cases, it was a need for a stronger policy teeth to reference, something that they could say, hey, this is why we're doing it. So if the policy referred to NENA standards or why they were doing it, it sort of made it easier to go back to the developer and say, it's lovely, but we don't want to have that name because it's too similar to something else, or the shape, or, you know, we've got a number of these different examples. I can't believe some of the ones we've seen where there's 90-degree angle changes for a road name. addressing versus where you actually access it out of number sequencing 1, 3, 5, 6, 8. And you're thinking it doesn't make any sense for somebody in an emergency context. At the same time, we're putting all of those examples together and we're creating an educational component that we will be sharing those implications of the examples to help others understand the seriousness of the context. So although there's been a lot of talk around the technologies involved in NG 911, I think we all understand and believe how crucial data will be. I like to think of it this way. Everything that's being worked on relating to technology, the network, call taking, dispatch, security, et cetera, is building one fine car. And as you can see in my slide, I got my little black car there. But that fine car isn't going anywhere if the fuel isn't there to support it. So whether it's from the agreements to creation and editing, quality checks, sharing and delivery to stakeholders, issue reporting, they are all crucial for the best data-informed response possible. So when I was asked what I could share from lessons learned, I took a moment to reflect and I came up with the ones you see here on the screen. You've got to just get started. Don't be afraid to do a quick cursory overview and then dive into the individual components in more detail as time and momentum dictates. You need structure, you need some sort of project management. This is a major project with a variety of stakeholders. You need some sort of governance structure that will bring those pieces together. It's going to be a journey. So you've got to be prepared to be agile, move when and where the traction is. Every building block counts. So even if you aren't doing it in the order that you had on your initial project plan, progress is a win. And noting that you're not going to have the skills that you need. You need experts in all areas, legal, technology, dispatch operations, policy, data. You need them to bring their superpowers to the table. And if you can, find alignments with other projects and initiatives. We've been focused, there's a lot of changes happening within the planning world right now within Ontario. And so we've been focused on the tie points between the planning process, building permits, and addressing. An interest that benefits more than one initiative will help you with building your buy-in. I put stay calm, but I know it's easier said than done. But most importantly, and the reason it's along the bottom is those relationships. You have to make them, strengthen them, and call on them at every level and all levels. I mean, we've already seen this within our GIS community where we've been banding together for a few years now, understanding what those implications of those geospatial data requirements of 911 will be, but we need to still continue to develop them further out. So our next steps will continue to focus on those initiatives that we mentioned. It's going to work on, it's also going to focus on more targeted working groups using members from all of our local municipalities, introducing and collaborating, collaborating with our neighbors. So we haven't got to that point of necessarily talking about the alignment efforts between each of them. Durham and ourselves, we went through a major rejig of one of our main roads, but we still have 3 more to do. So it's going to take a while. And along the way, we're going to continue to do what we've done so far. We've tried to have fun. We've tried to celebrate any movement forward. After all, a small step can still be a step in the right direction, and it can be the beginning of your momentum. So thanks for listening to our journey so far. I did put my digits up here in case you want to reach out and ask more things later on. Thank you.